Confront the hollowness of reality. Hello everyone. I would like to speak about certain things and to suggest that when we communicate and we don't keep up that intensity of communication, it may seem that we are being ignorant, but the nature of attentions flows as it does. What that means is the heart of the being goes where it wants to, as naturally as how a blue jay on a branch flies to where it feels it must. There are many pathways that lead to an understanding of how you are existential self-communication, but how everything is a creative phenomenon within your experience. It's as if this creation, in being aware of itself and being aware of creation, is having a creator experience. So it is the choice of the being that is keeping an individuality around. Are we ready to confront ourselves more than individuals? Are we ready to just be that view that is going through the city, looking at all those people just like those movie scenes and just wondering, is humanity ready? Humanity has not found itself yet, because when it does, its steps would fascinate all mankind. When the human species begins getting ready to do its work, we'd suddenly begin to see crime going away. It's as if a greater vision has been found. Together we will rise in ways unknown to man. But it is not one of still having a desire, because the same desire you can have for an objective reality, you can have for a subjective reality. So the acknowledgement has to be of the Atman. You gotta go within, you gotta go begin to see where reality is, what your quality of consciousness is. Consciousness is not a word you ignore, it is suggesting what is aware of everything else. And so there are many great leaders who are in their shadows learning how to face the light. For a turn is all you need. Every moment is governed through divine being. What that means is, in how you are, there is a sacredness to every moment. You think light has entered your eyes and you are just on a speck of dust? Who is aware of the nature of manifestation in your eyes? And as you begin asking these questions, it's as if you're pushing back the normal ideas. You're just pushing back everything that's the routine you've heard. And every person has their own sense of normal. What that means is everybody's experience of any concept is based on the steps they've taken. And so, because we understand every human being has not had the experience of every other human being directly or consciously, even on some subtler level of experience, we are connected beyond form, beyond time and space. The orientation is one where you observe physicality, you become aware of subjectivity, you observe subjectivity and how it is, in a sense, keeping a self-reflective expression of objectivity. And at the same time, the observer continues beyond the speakable dimension. So when we acknowledge that it is beyond the speakable dimension, that means it does, just because it's beyond the speakable dimension, it does not mean it is beyond an experiential dimension. Direct experience is always taking whatever that is, our norm, and constantly engaging it with wherever our steps are going through. Even though we see cruelty in this world, kindness follows with the continuation of the being to be present in a better world. What that means is many things may happen here which may seem very terrible as the human being does it. But you must not confront it alone. You must see that life has brought you here. Just like how that leaf is on that tree, there's a uniqueness to how you were born where you were born. And so you must pay attention to the design. You must find your hidden roots. You must go within to then be aware without. And without, in a sense, a constant need to have an idea justify your direction. Your presence is beyond a personality that can be idolized. That knowing is intelligent and its grace is transcendent. So when many beings speak about remembrance or how there are schools of remembrance, the idea is that your remembrance is not to something to something. It is from something to nothing, to no thing. An intelligence beyond thing. So in this, you got to really see, you got to become aware of what the relationship of mind and body means to you, and body and mind means to you. What that means is you need to look at your spectrum and to see how much you want to let this hamster run in the same wheel, or you want to begin to see that every moment is an allowance for you to have a novel view. What that means is there's a new sense of being to you, every moment, because you are only aware of the past you have lived. And of course, when I say you, this you is an idea that is based on your eyes, but you would see the intelligence that is keeping this idea alive is transparent to ideology. What that means is ideology is basking in it, so it's always transparent. But at the same time, we will begin to become respected by the concepts that have shaped our world. Your perception will fade you, and that is how it goes. What that means is you're here, in a sense, for the full package. You're here for an origination, for a construction, you stepping out, and then, in a sense, you enjoying the wave back in. The reason why a being may be speaking about self-discovery or self-inquiry is mainly because in perhaps 100 years that many of us have to live, why are we living? What is the absolute experience? What is the joy of all joys, which is directly in an instant knowable within our being? Existential observance is a beacon, but you must be aware of who is seeing. And if you find yourself coming to a certain state, I've noticed when one contemplates, there's either a state where you know things and you don't know things. And if you're comfortable with not knowing things, you would see you don't need to constantly change the knowing. You won't constantly need a belief after a belief after a belief, to see that all the leaves have crumbled. What that means is there's a difference between someone who accepts something because it is generally accepted, and there's a difference between someone who accepts something by having actually gone through an experience of exactly what that concept, in a sense, presented. Every moment, reality is being kept by certain elements and particles. Now, in this suggestion, there's a scientific basis where a human being can consider, or there's a non-scientific consideration. Society seems to have chosen the scientific view, many societies, Western societies. But now we must see that just like how we gave freedom of speech to the human being, we want to give freedom of ideas. So all ideas are possible because we want to create a world of possibility. We want to make it so that if the eyes from the sky just came down, they were allowed to be expressed. And why not let that child be free to draw as much as he wants? Because the drawing must begin in his vision. The colors you want to give your children to draw with are not physical colors. There are great ideas. There are depths in reality. There are wisdom that has been found within your being, and you can communicate it that way to the people around you. Do not devalue yourself by thinking that you have to always chase a better value. The value is there innately because in that moment when a being has been doing things its whole life, it recognizes it has also been being, and there's a realm of existential observance always there. Once the tea was gone and we were found, we were here. What that means is we may not appreciate the nature that we have now because of our advancements in technology, and not that it's a bad thing, but it's just that if we were to visualize in 2,000 years, if this world would be natural, would this nature, would this grass in this park, would this grass in the park still be green? Would this grass in the park be a memento of a historic moment where man was present with non-life? We were still an absolute biological awareness to being. You see, technology is evolving. Cybernetics is about to enter a game which man is choosing to be a player in. But we must be aware of all players. Back in the day, in certain ancient Indian cultures, they said there was a concept of a divine play. The being looked around and began to be aware that this is all an act. Not that you are an actor, but just that the whole concept is originating from your awareness of how you're being aware of it. And perhaps when they said be responsible, they meant be existentially and experientially responsible. Be grateful not for the food on the table, but for how your moment is conceived, the design of how your senses bring your moments into shape and color. The joy of man is never broken, but in every breaking finding vaster ways to stretch infinity. And in your centering and in your alignment and acceptance of your world will become your greatest thought and your projection into the unknown. What that means is you will see the pilot of consciousness will have navigated the plane of existence as the plane of existence. And of course I'm saying this very playfully. What that means is your awareness of self and other are no longer have to be. But you can acknowledge it always. You can be aware of every law. Your memory activates in a way where it's not that you had a memory or there was a thinker. You're just aware of thought, just like you're aware of a bird flying right in front of you. It is through an ability to be comfortable with anything that you begin to gain an observance beyond things. And what an experience does is it grounds you and gives you more of a real sense of how things are working in this life. And as you obtain this, then you expand. But sometimes you can't be inside a room and just be like, all right, I'm not going to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want. You cannot create fear if you have not acted, in a say. What that means is in an instant, reality can shift. Moksha, liberation, enlightenment, was said to be in an instant of knowing. What that means is fear and the feared and the fearless were all ideas that were natural movement. What that means is if human beings perhaps had never spoken, we would just be natural movement. But because we have spoken, we now are too seeing our creation is natural as well. That means the reality we are in is beginning to become transcendently vast and infinite in ways where only the person can see through his presence. What that means is, I was very curious on what they meant about psychic phenomena, but I realized it's not about the definition. It's not about a search in terra incognita, even though the explorer is born that way. In how reality is here, the simplicity of being is very clear. And that clarity is like an empty platform where many senses of fulfillment can and are simultaneously present. What that means is we are experiencing, for example, me speaking, you hearing this, but in actuality, who you are as an origin of awareness is a profundity beyond image, beyond space and time, because you can observe it. And when this existential experiential intelligence goes through that way, you're not an individual. You have become the world that is within you. So the light in your eyes never had to separate you. And perhaps we are memories of starlight. A glow born in the new. Life is always giving you signs and guiding you in regards to how a mirror would guide you. Every moment is suggesting how you're communicating, how you're doing things. You don't have to create some abstract scenario and think you're too stressed or depressed or even have fear. Just instantly see the design of how you're expressing, how you're taking your next step. And in that clarity, in that mindfulness, begin to see that every moment is a possibility of a greater allowance for yourself. And simply you just need to be honest, sincere, and have a very, I don't want to say positive, but in a sense, very clear and compassionate and able view. You want your life to be like a seed that contributed to the human species in ways where the children of our children's children will be like, wow, these guys were good. These guys were like really good, I would like to share some mantras and to communicate certain sounds that are just here to reflect in awareness of life. Study the nature of your attention, and the lesson will be the knower of who forgot. for the pilot's calling. For the pilot's calling. Put this at the beginning of Lida. Much blessings and namaste.